Good afternoon. I'm Jerry Schoenle. I'm the Chief of Police at the University of Buffalo, but I'm here today to speak to you as a representative for the New York State SUNY Chiefs of Police Association, which I'm the president of that group. I'd like to speak to you briefly to talk to you about the pension inequity. You heard a little bit about that from the union. I'm going to try not to be redundant on that, but I'd like you to understand the problems that we're having at the college campuses. I'm representing 28 chiefs of police at the campuses throughout New York State, and we're all facing some significant problems with our officers leaving to go to other agencies. Just to tell you a little bit about the New York State University Police, there are 590 sworn police officers on our 28 campuses, and we're actually a pretty young police department. We've only been a police department for 15 years. Prior to that, we were public safety. Prior to that, security. It's a long history of evolving, but we're pleased today that SUNY has made the decision, and rightly so, to have a full-service police department representing, protecting all of our students, faculty, and staff. Just a little word on my background. I've been in law enforcement for 37 years. I've worked for 5 different agencies. Most of the time I did 20 years with the Buffalo Police Department. I ran a county police academy for Erie County for 5 years. My job before coming to SUNY, I was the Assistant Chief of Police for Arlington, Texas. So I've been in law enforcement quite a long time, and in some of the side jobs that I've had as an adjunct professor for SUNY, as an accreditation assessor, which I still am for New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, and also for IACLEA. I do administrative studies on police departments, as well as doing accreditation assessments at the national level. So I do these at the state and national level, and I can see that we have a crying need here to address this problem. We have hundreds of police departments in New York State, but there's only one that is not part of the police and fire system. So what happens is we get trained officers that it costs us about $100,000, $85,000 to $100,000 to get an officer hired, trained, fully equipped, 6 months through a police academy, 3 months through a field training officer program, and by the time they're ready to go after a year, in their second year, many of them are looking to get jobs in other departments where they can have enhanced benefits. The pay is fairly comparable now, but the benefits are not, and as was mentioned by the union representative there, an officer hired today could have to work till age 63 to get the full benefits, where comparable police departments, now it's mostly 25 years. So it's a huge difference right now. And what's happening is we're losing these officers on a regular basis. The Chancellor's statement this morning, she noted that we lost 64 officers since 2008. That's a significant number of officers, and you could pretty much figure that's almost $100,000 an officer. And what happens is we have to train these officers, and we lose them for a year. Now we're behind the 8 ball, and we have to bring another person on board, go through this whole process over again. We're not keeping experienced people to protect our college campuses. Just to give you an idea of what our structure looks like at the University of Buffalo, we have 60 sworn police officers, 60 student assistants that help us out in different ways. And out of the 60 sworn officers, 43 are patrol officers, 4 are investigators. We have an investigative supervisor, 9 lieutenants, 5 civilian dispatchers, a deputy chief, and assistant chief that handles special events, as we have more special events than anybody in the state, and we have a chief of police. So we're a very busy police department, and all of our campuses are, and we recognize the professionalism that you need in a modern-day police officer, especially in university policing. One of the things we pushed for in recent years is accreditation. Our department at UB was the first to become state accredited, and now we're currently the only one that's also nationally accredited in New York State. But now today we've been pushing other departments and been assisting other police departments at these 28 campuses. Now we have a third of our campuses that are accredited through the Division of Criminal Justice Services, and the Chancellor has issued a directive supporting us to be fully accredited with all 28 campuses within the next 5 years, which is a great accomplishment because that statewide there's only 25% of police departments that are accredited. And in this day and age, to just put this in perspective, you can think of all the things that are going on in our country, all the problems that we've had throughout, Ferguson and Cleveland and on. And what I can determine, most of these police departments are not accredited police departments. Not to say it couldn't happen, but if you adhere to the best practices in your profession, your chances of lawsuits and your chances of having professionalism in things such as use of force, pursuit policies, it's going to be greatly diminished where you have to deal with these problems. So it's been a big push. We have this professional department now with our 590 officers statewide, and unfortunately we can't get this one next step. I had an officer contact me last week, and he called me and said, I just wanted to let you know why I had to leave, Chief. He left us just after January. On a personal level, he said he had 2 job opportunities in the past year to go to other police departments, and he turned them down because he really liked working for SUNY, he liked working at UB, he was a really good officer, and then the pension bill wasn't passed, and he said he just really had to look out for himself and his family, and he had to leave us. He was left with a heavy heart and really wanted to stay, and we just can't retain these younger officers, so it's going to become a big problem. Right now it's not a huge problem for Albany or Stony Brook or University of Buffalo, our bigger police departments, but for our small departments it's become pretty much a crisis. To give you one quick example, SUNY Morrisville, they're down 50% right now. They currently have only 3 officers working, and 2 of those 3 have less than 3 years of experience, so they can't even staff their officers 24/7 on a small campus like that. So it's really becoming a crisis for our smaller campuses that we have to find a way to address, and they're looking at creative ways to try to do this. You know, modern day policing, there's more requirements on us every day. Mental health issues are probably #1, followed up by sexual assault, training on Narcan, which is a drug that addresses heroin overdoses. Just last night, in fact, I was woken up early this morning by one of my assistant chiefs. We had a call that one of our students off campus was having a problem, a serious respiratory problem, probably in respiratory arrest. They were trying to locate the student. The parents had called us and told them that he was suicidal. Through the good work of our officers, they were able to bring in the outside department because it was off campus, and they were able to administer this Narcan drug and save the student's life. And this is the kind of training our officers have, and all 28 of our campuses now all have this Narcan there. Emergency management, which is a huge function for university police. We have to be proficient at that for things like these storms that we're having every day lately, and things like active shooter that we pray won't happen on our college campuses. But what I'm really saying to you in a nutshell, if we really need to have the best and the brightest as university police officers, and I think we're doing a good job of that in our hiring process, but it's really hard for us to compete when we have our officers leaving at the way they are right now on a regular basis. I don't know what else we can do except give them pension equity. It just makes sense to me. I can't see why an officer, a young officer, would stay when they can have this opportunity to go to another department with a much better system. And just quickly, I would just like to say I'd like to urge the legislator to add legislation and funding to the 15 and 2016 budget to correct this situation. I know you've been very supportive of University Police and of SUNY, and we appreciate that, but I'd like you to consider this for the benefit of all our campuses. Thank you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'll just say quickly, your representatives made a strong case on this last year, and I think the visuals and whatever were presented very strongly, by your organization. And you mentioned it's only been 15 plus years or so with the designation. Obviously, that's been the problem, but hopefully this is an area that can be rectified. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you.
Any further questions?
No, for the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.